Sean, you make me laugh. Hello everyone, Jezzy here, and welcome to the final installment of BROCKTOBER. It's been a long and brutal month, but I've finally made it to the 5th and final video. After the Saturation trilogy, Brockhampton went through several different phases of what they wanted to do with their next album. Some of these phases and changes were direct results of things that actually happened to the band. From getting signed to a major label to the loss of one of their core members, Amir, there was a lot going on. First, it was going to be called Team Effort, then it was going to be called Puppy, then The Best Years of Our Lives. And now here we finally are with Iridescence. There's obviously been a ton of hype around this album, considering the Saturation trilogy has just become so critically acclaimed, so well known in both underground and popular circles. Some were worried that without Amir it was over for the group. But for me personally, this album has more than satisfied me. I went in with high expectations and I still came out with more than I expected. I expected it to just be an okay follow-up to the Saturation trilogy, one that reflected changes within the group, and while both of those are true, it's still a very solid album in its own right. We hear the group continue to evolve on this album. Iridescence is much less hooky and catchy and instantly memorable as the Saturation trilogy, but it more than makes up for that with how experimental and out there the production is. It's like the weirdness of Saturation 2, only taken up a few notches. Some tracks get very grimy and aggressive, such as HEDROVER and Where the Cachet. Woo! Please tell me I'm pronouncing that French word right.
Ouvert.
Some tracks are really cold and mechanical, such as Merlin and District. This album, much like Atrocity Exhibition, really teeters on being industrial hip-hop, but it really straddles the line in a way where it can still do a lot of other things, such as with all of its really beautiful and orchestral moments. San Marcos and Loophole being good examples of that. But often throughout the album, many elements are at play. Tracks like Wait and Tape morph so much and they can be classified as so many different things. This is definitely one of those albums where every listen you just keep noticing more and more new elements. Another thing I really appreciate about this album is how much more involved Bareface is. I was worried that involving Bareface more would be kind of a forced choice after the loss of Amir, like they're only throwing him in more because they lost a rapper, but all of Bareface's parts on this album fit so well and it really makes me look back at the Saturation trilogy and think, wow, I really could have used more Bareface. Because in those albums he was only really used for the outro tracks and special interludes, and now he feels just as prominent as members such as Merlin, which is great. Which brings me to my next point. Merlin really shines on this album. Merlin's always been a favorite of mine, but he has so many memorable moments on this album. His verse in New Orleans, his verse in HEDROVER, which I might add is an interesting verse because he uses a very normal sounding voice. It brings to mind Danny Brown when he's not using his weird voice. Like, I love Merlin's really weird delivery, but hearing him have a kind of normal rapping style, that becomes the weird out there thing. And then there's the shorter track Where's the Cash At, which is essentially just a Merlin song featuring friends. The group dynamic is great, don't get me wrong, but hearing him get his own song on the album is kinda cool. For real though, the real stars on this album are the producers. Romil, Q3, Joba, y'all did a phenomenal job on this album. For real, I love that the group makes their producers just as known as important feeling as the other members. They deserve all the respect they can get. Lyrically, the album overall deals with themes of this newfound success that the group has, all of the good and the bad that comes with it. There seems to be a reoccurring theme that success doesn't necessarily fix all the pains inside of you. You can be depressed and make it big and still be depressed. Your family might hate you and you can make it big and your family might still hate you. It's nothing revolutionary, but I don't dig into lyrics that much. That's not what I listen to music for. And it complements the music quite fine. So it's all good. Track by track, New Orleans is a very memorable opener with great verses from Dom and Merlin. It really gets the album going, it's very upbeat, one of the catchier songs on the album, and this track transitions into Thug Life perfectly and seamlessly. It's like New Orleans' extended outro with Bareface. It works very well as a 1-2 combo, highlighting their strengths in the hip-hop department and the art-pop department. Merlin's got one of the best hooks, and the instrumental just throbs with distortion. Something about him is pretty much an interlude, it's not that long. It doesn't feel very fleshed out, and I'd say it's the only weak point on the album. It's hardly over a minute, but still. Weak. Then there's Where the Cash At with Merlin, like I said before. Then you get Wait, one of the best songs on the album. It's one of the more personal, introspective tracks on the album, with all the members kind of relaying their worries, the struggles they continue to go through after their success. The instrumental switches up several times, and it's super satisfying when it does. A very fast jungle-esque beat just comes in. It's got a bunch of vocal chopping over it. On first listen, this track really blew me away, and it continues to be one of my favorites. Ooh, and then you get District. District is great. This song goes hard with one of the best instrumentals on the album. And in the last third, the beat switches up and becomes even better. The surprise feature from MIA goes really well with the last third of this song. When her refrain is repeated, it gets twice as fast, and it just goes so rhythmically well with the beat. Then there's Loophole, which is essentially another interlude, and it's just about music industry woes, nothing more. Tape's another one of those tracks that mixes all kinds of great elements together. You got this fast, frantic beat, orchestral elements, pianos, and other atmospheric elements. HEDROVER is one of their most aggressive songs, with an intense verse from Joba that rivals that of Heat. It's also got one of the best instrumentals on the album too. It's weird and anxious and angry in all the best ways. Then you get Honey, which has this deep synth throb that kind of reminds me of the one that you hear in the background of Kids by MGMT, though a little slower. And this track's like District in the way that it changes up in the second half. It even reuses sirens. What's up with that? A thematic choice? It goes nice either way, and it's not like they've never used sirens before. Oh, boogie! Then you got Vivid, one of the shorter tracks with one of the weirdest instrumentals. It's alright. Dom's verse in particular really stands out to me. Then you get San Marcos, which I like almost as much as Wait. It's another softer ballad and it ends with a really cathartic outro. It's just a very pretty, well done, very well put together song. It could have worked very well as the final song, but the next two tracks pick up where it left off very well. Tanya comes in and it's a very introspective track. The members are just being very honest here. They're laying out their fears and their woes. And this is immediately followed up with Fabric, which initially starts off with the same softness as the previous two tracks. But across its length, the energy from earlier in the album starts to creep back in until you're just left with this pounding pulse. And that's not the end either, because then a short snippet comes in where the members pronounce that this is the best years of their lives. This is not just a reference to one of the album's previous working titles, but also the title of the proposed trilogy that this album is starting. Which I guess leaves me with this. What a strong start to the trilogy. The group have proven that they still work very strong without Amir, and I'm very positive about future projects. I really hope that the next installments of this trilogy continue where this album creatively left off, while also bringing back more of the Saturation trilogy's fun and gripping catchiness. Because as great as this album is, it does not have a boogie. It does not have a queer. It doesn't even have a gold. Apply this sound to singles as great as the ones from the Saturation trilogy, and you've got yourself a perfect album. Let's see if they can do it. Because for all I know, this album might just be them trying to restructure their dynamic after they lost Amir. And now that they've figured that out, we might see them on full force the next two albums. Anyways, I rate this album really fucking good out of 10. This has been Jezza. Stay kunky. Put that at the end.
I have a Discord, it's pretty funny.